Hello lovelies, welcome to my channel. It's Hila here, Saturday Night Stitching. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you're having a fantastic day wherever you are. Today's video is a long belated sew and tell video. I've got several garments to share with you, so we're going to dive straight into it. First of all, apologies for the lighting. I just can't seem to get it right. We've just had rain and dark gray clouds for the last 3 days now, so I'm just trying to make best with what I have right now. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to share with you is one of the most recent things that I have made. So I'm going to try and go backwards. So I have here McCall's, where did I put it? McCall's M6044. So I wanted to make my husband another summer shirt because he's due a new funky print shirt in rotation for summer. And I had this lovely retro Cars cotton print that I had got from, I think it was Rainbow's Fabrics, and I got the last 2 meters. It was a narrow 44-inch wide, so I had to make sure that I got it right. So I just went with tried and trusted McCall's M6044. But what I did do to try and create it more fitted was, instead of cutting out the normal medium with the adjustments that I have made for him, I cut it out as a small, and it's got a closer fit for him. And so this came out quite well, although I did have several issues making it. It's one of those that I made 3 mistakes and I very nearly gave up on it, but I had to continue with it because I was making it for my darling husband. So mistake number 1 is that I accidentally cut out 2 back pieces, and by the time I realized that, because I couldn't understand why I'd run out of fabric, and I really struggled to get the rest of the fabric bits cut out, and I'd actually gotten to the point where I was looking through my stash for matching fabric that I could use for the under collar and for the cuffs, because I just didn't have enough fabric. As I said, it was 44 inches wide and I only had the 2 meters, and I cut out the back twice, and it is just the silliest mistake ever. So anyway, once I realized that I'd cut out the back twice, I then was able to use the back pattern piece to cut out the rest of the collar pieces and the cuff pieces that I needed. So it does mean that the sleeve, the undersleeve pieces, a couple of them are not quite on the grain because I had to try and get them to fit with a limited amount of fabric. So I shifted the grain line a little bit, but it's not that visible. You'd have to have a really sharp eye to realize that those pattern pieces were not cut on the grain. So that was mistake number 1 that I did. Mistake number 2 was that I decided I didn't want to have a separate button placket. So McCall's M6044 has a separate button placket. So you've got these 2 long rectangular pieces that you have to fold in and sew to create the button placket. And I decided that I wanted to have a grown-on placket because that would make it easier for pattern matching, because I wanted the cars to match across the button placket. And I thought it would be easier to do that by rejigging the pattern and just adding on that fold-on placket. Big mistake. Big mistake, because then by trying to match up according to where the fold lines were, it ended up eating up so much more fabric than was necessary. And then to make matters worse, after I'd made it and I finally managed to rejig it, whatever, I'd miscalculated a little bit on the length of the grown-on placket itself. And so it was a bit too tight around the chest, and so I had to reduce the, so the fault was mine. I should have basically tried that first before I cut into the actual fabric. And then the third mistake that I made with this was, as I was busily overlocking the seam edges. So for the side seams, I overlocked and then pressed and then top stitched on the other side, which is a cheap and fast way to create the look of flat felled seams on the outside, but you haven't. You've actually just overlocked the seam and then you've top stitched it down. So whilst I was overlocking and listening to my Audible book, I didn't realize that I caught the front of the garment and I cut into it. Can you see that? this got cut in after I had done the placket. And I was mortified. I was absolutely mortified, and I very nearly gave up. But I knew that if I didn't fix that issue straight away, I was just going to frog it. I was going to frog the project. So anyway, I just decided to do the simplest, the easiest fix. Basically tried to keep it simple because I was beginning to overthink that, oh, I need to do a perfect pat. I can do some sashiko embroidery, or I can cut this out a perfectly matching piece and then try to make it invisible. And I was just like, just do what you need to do to be able to carry on with the project. And that was just putting a little bit of fabric underneath and then just doing a zigzag stitch. And then I put some fray check, some fabric glue on it. And I was just like, that's it. Better done than perfect, is what I said to myself. And then I carried on putting the collar. The collar piece is a piece that I drafted instead of the actual McCall's collar, because I've always found that the McCall's collar is a little bit on the big side, and I was just trying to make it a little bit trimmer for him. So it's quite nice. I found a really great tutorial. I think it's called by Tui May Sewing Channel. And that's what I followed, and I drafted it, and I'm very happy with how the collar turned out. It did turn out just a little bit too small, but thankfully he doesn't button up his shirts that much. It's more like a casual way, so we can get away with it being worn like that once once a week. So anyway, the things that I really do like, so those are the 3 mistakes that I made with it, but the things that I really do like, I love that I managed to pattern match the pocket. Over here, there's actually a pocket over there. It's pattern matched and it does look lovely. I like that I drafted the collar. I'll definitely try and do that in future makes, because it did come out really nicely. It's one of my best collars that I have ever done. And it's lovely, and I managed to actually finish it in time for my husband to wear it for summer. So I started off with this one because this is the one that had the most drama with it, and it looks good on him. He wears it with his khaki chinos, and it looks really, really lovely. The second thing that I'm going to show you is McCall's M7079 that I made for my girls. My twins are now 10 years old, going on to 30. And yeah, so I traced this out. I liked this pattern because it's very similar to the Kichikuu Lady Skater dress, which I've been making for them since they were little toddlers now, but it only goes up to the age 8. I think it doesn't go beyond that. You'd have to buy the teens version, but I decided that I was going to use this McCall's pattern, and it's got several variations. I decided to go for the variation that's the short sleeve. And it's fabulous. I used this jersey that I got from Pounds Fabrics last year, and I made it in the different fabrics. And what I did was I swapped over the sleeve fabric. So the sleeve fabric on this one is the main fabric on that, and then the sleeve fabric on that one is the main one on that. And then I used this ribbed cuffing that I bought from Fabrics for All before they shut down here in England. Loved doing this, came together so quickly. I finished it all in one sitting. And I actually used my my cover stitch machine. I have it in mind that I'm going to learn how to love my cover stitch machine by forcing myself to use it. And honestly, it took longer dealing with the thread ends than it took to actually make the dresses themselves. They come together so quickly. So the pattern, it's got options for you to do a dindle skirt style, which is just a long rectangular thing that you gather together, or you've got these sort of I want to say quarter circle. They've got a flare, skirt flare to them. So yeah, really lovely. The fabric washes really well, and it's been going down a treat. The third item that I want to show you is a pattern that I loved so much. I made it twice. So it's the first version is this one in the linen viscose. Oh, and I love this so much. This also had a little bit of drama. This is Burda. It's the cover dress, the Burda 6/2023 number 103 dress. Really, really lovely. I made this in the linen viscose. I finished this off with bias binding, and there's a little bit of sewing mischief going on here because I had to use some hand stitching and some things just didn't end up lining up as much as I would have loved, but I do like the emerald green bias binding and how it looks. So this one is the slightly more casual version. Now with this one, I made two mistakes, right? The first one was that for the bodice back pattern pieces and the skirt back, I forgot about how thick the Minerva exclusive selvage edge is, which is fine if you're using it as a hem because you can just hem it over, but it doesn't work really well sort of like down the center back seam to have that straight line, almost as if it's an arrow saying, look right down my center back. So it meant that I had to do a bit of sewing mischief to get it in, to get it covered so that it wasn't visible, and that sort of impacted the zipper. So this one is a little bit tighter than the one that I'm wearing now because I needed to take in a bit more in order to hide that selvage. So you can see it's right on the edge there. So I covered it as much as I possibly could. The other mistake that I made was when I was lining up the skirt pattern piece to the bodice pattern piece. Let's see if I can show you this. So what happened was that the top has got these princess seam lines over here, and I accidentally attached the side seam onto this princess seam line instead of onto this side seam line here. So as a result, I have a pocket here rather than a pocket here. You can't really see it as much. And I only noticed it, I'm ashamed to say, after I actually tried it on for the first time, because I was just going on listening to my audiobook as I was doing it. And I didn't even notice it until I went to try it on. And then I was looking for the pocket and I found the pocket at the front of me, and I was absolutely mortified again. But what came out of that, given that this was a project that I messed up as well as the shirt, I'm now no longer allowed to listen to audiobooks when I'm actually sewing, because I think it's because I was so focused in so engrossed in the audiobook, I wasn't putting my attention fully on what I'm doing. So that is one good thing that has come from that. But I had to redeem my honor. I love this dress so much. It is so comfortable to wear and it's so cute. I decided that I was going to make it again. And this is the one that you see here. And this was made without listening to an audiobook. I was completely focused in on what I was doing, and I added a lining to it, and I loved it so much. I even made a petticoat to wear it with, so a long petticoat, so that it just has a little bit more structure to it because it is a cotton sateen. Okay, I've changed into something else so that I can show you the details on this dresses and show them to you side by side. Okay, so this one, I made it with a lining. It is a beautiful cotton sateen fabric, so it's got like this really lovely lightweight shiny sheen to it, but it's the bodice is fully lined, and I used my Italian Bemberg rayon, which just has got a silky feel to it, and it's just so comfortable. Really, really love how this feels. And yeah, I finished the zipper by doing some hand sewing all the way down here. And for the hem, because it is a cotton sateen, I also did a blind hem, and I did some hand sewing throughout. And that's because it creates a nicer couture finish. Unlike, say, if you compare with this one, I finished it with a hem, like I just sewed it down. Can you see? And then on the inside, you've got the overlocked edge visible, whereas this one's got a really neater finish on the inside. So I really went through extra trouble to try and redeem my honor when I was making this one because of all the mistakes that I had made before, and it's working out better for me not being allowed to listen to any audible whilst I'm actually doing the sewing. But yes, a really, really lovely dress. I didn't think it was possible for me to like this pattern even more. But once I made it and I had it lined, oh, I just loved it. This one, the inside, let me show you the inside, what it looks like. So this one's got quite a different look on the inside because we've got the green satin bias binding, the emerald green there. And ta-da! Can you see my mistake? The pocket is on to the side, although it's not very visible. But so these are the two that I've made. And let me tell you, I am not done with this pattern. I can see myself making more and more of these patterns. Really love it. And I made a petticoat here, 29 inches long. So I have a slip that I bought from Marks and Spencer's, but I think it's 19 inches, so it just goes to my knees. But I wanted something that was a little bit more substantial for this dress, so I made this. This took me probably about half an hour to make because it's just literally selvage to selvage, and made a casing for an elastic and hemmed it. And it is very nice because it's that lovely silky feeling. And I'm definitely going to be making another slip, like a full body slip, using this fabric here. So that was two Burda dresses for the win. Love this pattern. Just this pattern alone makes this issue super worth it. Right, so the next thing that I made was a long-term whip project, which is Simplicity S8447. S8447, the Rosie the Riveter. And I made this in this iCat print that I got from Fabworks many moons ago. And I finally finished it. And one of the holdups was the fact that my chest had sort of expanded a bit from all the resistance training that I now do. So I've got more, I built up my lats a lot more. So by the time I got around to finishing this, which is why you should never let your projects marinate because you can change size of it, I had to add on a placket here. Right, and can you see how I had to put the buttons right at the edge to make room for that for the increased lats that I had created, that I had built. And once I did that, I finished it, and it is quite cute. My husband absolutely loves it. He thinks that it's absolutely cute and it's adorable and it's very comfortable. However, it suffers from the main problem that I have with jumpsuits, which is that in terms of practical day-to-day life, particularly if you're somebody who drinks a lot of water, I am very religious about drinking water. I drink a minimum of 3 liters of water a day, plus electrolytes to make sure that I am completely hydrated. So that does mean that there are a lot of bathroom breaks in my life. And when you have a jumpsuit whose buttons are over here, right? And then you've also got buttons down the sides. I always have to give pause and think twice before I actually wear it because of those reasons. However, when I'm doing day trips and I'm limiting my liquid intake, because when I'm out and about, I try to be more in control of that, it does work. I love it. But the next time that I make it, I am going to move those buttons that are at the back to the front, because I think it would be so much faster and so much easier if I could do that, right? And maybe swap out the buttons on the side for a zipper, and then it can be, and then you're good to go. So that's my only issue with it, but otherwise quite lovely. And I think that the trouser pattern in and of itself would be a really lovely pattern. So I'm actually very tempted to make this more practical for me by actually chopping off the top bit and just leaving it as the trousers. But we'll see about that. Apart from that, it is a fun pattern to sew. It's quite unusual how you put the bodies together, so very interesting. Oh, one other thing though, it doesn't have practical pockets. It does have this one dinky tiny little pocket right here at the front. And when I say it's dinky and tiny, it really is dinky and tiny. You can't really put anything in it except coins. So the next time that I make it, I would be drafting some hip yoke pockets so that it's actually usable. And every time that I've worn it, I've constantly wanted to put my hands, because the heft and the size of these trousers, you just kind of feel like it ought to have somewhere for your hands to hang out in. So those are the things that I would add to this particular one. But it is a lovely, useful one, and I do look forward to trying to make another one of it. Now then, the last thing to show you is the wrap dress, the DVF wrap dress, which I made as part of the Minerva brand ambassador kits. And I made it in this green meadow flowers viscose jersey. So the Minerva exclusive viscose jerseys are really nice quality. And this one I picked because I thought that the green was cool enough for me to be able to get away with it in winter, and of which it looks really lovely with my brown boots. And I was wearing it towards the end of winter when the weather was just a little bit, it wasn't quite as cold, and I could sort of get away with just wearing some lighter weight tights and this with the bag and a jacket over it. It came together beautifully. This is the fourth one that I have made now, because it's a really great pattern. I enjoy it. I like wearing it. It's very practical, very useful. And I went the full shebang with this. It's got the collar and it's got the pointy cuffs, everything full on 70s. The only thing that I need to get are the 70s sunglasses so that when I wear it, I can be rocking the 70s. But yeah, overall went really, really well. I did add a stay tape on here, and that's to prevent the gaping that you normally get with a lot of wrap dresses. So put that on. And one of the unique things about this dress pattern, and if you're ever going to try and make this, is basically read through the instructions, right? Because most modern wrap dress patterns, they have you interfacing the facing piece, right? But on this one, you actually interface the section on the actual section on the bodice where your facing piece then folds over, so that it's got a bit more structure. And I remember one of the times that I made it, I think the first time that I made it, I just assumed it was just as normal. And so with the first one, I interfaced these bits here instead of the main thing. But actually, the dress works so much better when you do the interfacing the way that they do the instructions for. So that's just something for you to note on that. Obviously, I love this pattern because I've made it 4 times now, and it's just a really lovely one. The pattern itself is suitable for both wovens and stretch fabrics. So I've made it 2 times in wovens and 2 times in jerseys, and it's using the exact same pattern, and it still produces the same excellent fit. I find that the jerseys are really lovely because you get that swish, the sachet when you're walking with them, and the cottons, because I've made it in a cotton lawn and a rayon challis, before they just hold the flare just a little bit more, and it's just a little bit more crisper, so it doesn't have the same fluidity, but absolutely lovely. Definitely recommend this, and I will definitely be making another one. And the great news is Vogue have reissued this pattern, because around the first time that I made it, it was still something of a rarity that was occasionally coming up on eBay at ridiculous prices. And I actually had gotten myself a reprint from the Vintage Pattern Shop, which is based here in England, but Vogue have reissued it as Vogue 2000, I think. So I don't know how long they're going to have the reissue out for, so you might want to get your hands on it and just sit on it, because it might go back to being rare like it was a few years ago. So this is all that I have for today. For the things that I have made, I currently do have a lot of sewing plans going on at the moment. I'm currently in the middle of making the Lulu pants from La Maison Victor for my girls, and I'm making them in a rayon challis. So they're mostly nearly done. I just have to do the waistbands, and these are going to be perfect for summer for them to wear. I've made them before when they were toddlers for them. So that's it. This is all that I have. Thank you so much if you've stayed until the end. You are a rock star, and I appreciate you watching in this sort of like dark, murky sewing room. It's raining now. It's already beginning to rain, and it's just been raining for ages. But I have been trying to share a lot of the stuff that I'm getting up to as well over on Hillary at Home. So head on over there, subscribe, and check out all of my gardening adventures and my cooking stuff that I'm doing over there. For a lot of fun. And if you haven't already, smash the subscribe button. It's a cheap and easy way that costs you nothing to support and help the channel. And when you like it, it does help send the message to the YouTubes that other people might be interested in sewing, might want to check this out. So really appreciate that. And until I see you next time, lovelies, happy sewing. Bye. Oh, and very separately, this is the Simple Sew Shannon dress. I made it in a French terry that I bought from Fabrics for All. Really sad it was a bricks and mortar shop that closed down, but I like it. It's a very simple French terry, quite suitable for our days where summer is still kind of thinking about whether it wants to show up or not. So we do have some slightly nippy days, but I do find that I like wearing this because it's bright and it's colorful and it's cheerful and all of that. Oh, also, I forgot to say that one of the reasons why I hadn't actually managed to get to filming some of these face-to-face things was I really struggled a fair bit with my allergies, but I think I finally found something that works for me. I eventually came across this antihistamine called Fexanidine, I think, or Alivia, which has worked wonders for me. So my face is still a little bit on the puffy side, and I still can't put on any makeup, especially around the eyes or even any foundation, because I always end up having to rub my eyes. But at least I can breathe through my nose, and I'm not sneezing all the time, and my face is not actually completely super puffy like it was before. So it feels like I'm a bit more in control of my sinuses and my face since this new antihistamine that I've been on. And so I'm looking forward to having summer if the sun ever shows up. Anyway, thank you again so much. Bye.